All right, I'm Scotty. You're not. It's time to talk about season 4 of The Flash. I'm just gonna go ahead and sit down because let's just talk about this. So, with some of these seasons of TV shows like Flash and Legends and stuff, I haven't sat through like the entire season after buying the DVD. Legends, I have because I had seasons 1 and 2 for so long. I actually sat through both seasons and watched them through. So I've seen those, but I'm gonna watch them again, of course, when I do those reviews. But for the Flash, I watched maybe the first disc of each season because, well, sometimes. So what I used to do is when I put them. There's a function on your Blu-ray DVD players. Put a disc in, and when you press play all, and then you can set it to put it on repeat. For some of them, it'll play all the episodes on the disc in repeat. Sometimes it only plays one episode on repeat, and sometimes it doesn't even work. Depends on the disc and the company and stuff. So I would do that. So I hadn't actually sat through the entire seasons of these. And so this is the first time since it aired that I've watched like all these seasons going forward. I think season 1 and 2 were the only seasons that I sat through the entirety after they aired, because I knew once I got to season 3 season 3 was when I started having problems with the show. I didn't care for Savitar, and we get to this and I'm very conflicted because it's a mixed bag with the villain for this season, that being Cliff DeVoe, aka the Thinker. It's a mixed bag for me because there are so many frustrating things with this character, but the actor they got to portray this character is fantastic. So I'm sitting there in awe of this actor, Neil Sandilands, and I'm like, man, he's so good. But then the other side of mine, I'm like, no. There are things you don't like about this character. He's too OP, and other things which we'll get to. But yeah. So this season is conflicting for me. There's a lot of good things. There's some not so good things. It's a middle of the road season, all things considered. And there's some things that frustrate me, as all TV shows do. But yeah, so where do we start off with? So at the end of season 3, Barry was forced to go into the Speed Force. Because there was no one left in the Speed Trap, which technically should not exist, but since time doesn't exist in the Speed Force, it still does, so, that thing. So he has to go into the Speed Force at the end of season 3. So we cut to a few months, 6 months later, I think it is, and Wally is now technically the protector of Central City with Cisco or Vibe, and Caitlin is in the wind somewhere doing stuff. She's working at a bar, we find out, and Joe and Cecile are a couple now, and then the others. But yeah, so I guess the first problem with this season is Wally West. At the end of season 3, and I've always felt this, at the end of season 3, it felt like he could have been set up to be the new Flash. Because if you don't know, in the comics, Wally West takes over for the Flash after the Flash dies in Crisis, I think it is. But this is where they started to drop the ball on Wally West. It feels like they didn't know what to do with the character, because a lot of problems stem from, if there were 2 speedsters on the show, it would be easy for them to win. Which is why sometimes you'll get an episode here and there where speedsters show up, which there is an episode called Flash Time in which it's like a speedster episode where the speedsters come in to help Barry. We get Jessie, who's there to see her dad. We'll talk about that. And, of course, Jay Garrick. but Wally's nowhere to be seen. Now, at this point in the season, I think Wally's with the Legends. Legends! No, Goldberg, sit down. It's with the Legends. So, that's why he's not there, but still, and it is kind of a time-sensitive thing, but they could have figured out a way for him to show up. Like, oh, he's visiting, having to just be visiting. He just happened to just be visiting when this was going on. I don't know. They could have figured out a way to bring him in, but you're saying, well, if they had 4 speeches, they could have beaten this thing. They had 3 and they couldn't do it. And I think that episode was actually pretty good, to be honest. But yeah, so yes. So they are. Barry's in the Speed Force. Kid Flash is the speedster in the town helping save things, but then a Samuroid, Cisco's naming of it, shows up. It's a samurai android, basically Samuroid, and wants the Flash. So they're forced to create this orb they're going to send into the Speed Force with Barry's DNA energy so that Barry can be set free. But Barry doesn't show up where they said he was going to, so they think it didn't work. But he is found in like a couple cities away or so. And he came out in front of this bus, which does play into things later. And I'll give props that they didn't pussyfoot around with the villain. At the end of this, the first episode, you see the Thinker in his chair, his floating chair, in the suit. You see the Thinker, where the earlier seasons, they toy around with who the villain was going to be. Like, you weren't aware that the Reverse Flash was going to be the main villain until episode, was it 7 or 8? The mid-season finale, basically, of season 1. You didn't know that... you heard about Zoom, but you didn't know what he was or what the stakes were until a few episodes in. Savitar wasn't even the main villain at first. It was Alchemy, and then Savitar came in, and then, again, that's like mid-season finale territory. You know it's the Thinker right away. It was foreshadowed twice in season 3 with Abracadabra saying it, and then Savitar saying it. Yeah. DeVoe. Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker. And like I said, let's just talk about the Thinker here. My whole thoughts on the Thinker, okay? When Neil Sandilands is portraying the character, he's great. He's a little OP for my liking, because I think they make him super OP by the time that the season's, it gets towards the final showdown. He's too OP for my liking, but the way that Neil Sandilands portrays the character is fantastic. However, the big problem I have is in the middle of this season, they decide to yoink Neil Sandilands from the role and have him jumping into other bodies. And at first he jumps. Okay, so here's the situation with that. I gotta explain this. So when Barry comes out of Speed Force, he goes in front of a bus. That bus creates dark matter energy, or that exit creates dark matter energy that engulfs the bus and changes 12 ordinary people into metas, which none of them was the bus driver, so the bus driver wasn't there. So their quest is to find these bus metas who are now causing problems because, I guess, every person who gets powers has to be evil, except for Ralph Dibny, aka the Elongated Man, who's introduced in this season and played by Hartley Sawyer. And I like the character of Ralph, okay? I think he's a great addition to the team, and it sucks later when he's supposedly killed, and it, devastates you because he's had this redemption arc. And I've bitched about this in movies and TV before, where just because a character gets a redemption arc does not mean he has to die at the end of it. I feel like that loses the point of the redemption. Why does he have to die after becoming a good guy and getting redemption? It's just frustrating. He's redeemed, and so he sacrifices himself, but it's not really a sacrifice, but I never cared for those redemption arcs where the person who redeemed himself dies because of doing it. They do it in Star Wars all the freaking time now. But DeVoe is after these bus metas. He goes after one by one. I can't remember all of them. Kilgore, Black Bison. There's actually 2 versions of ISA members in this. The Injustice Society of America, which I just reviewed the first season of Super Stargirl, if you want to check that out. But there's the Fiddler, aka in this version, a female gender swapped Izzy Bowen, which there was a female Fiddler in on Stargirl, but it wasn't Izzy Bowen, it was Amaya Bowen. And she was the mother of the actual Fiddler, Isaac Bowen, so it's really weird. I don't know. And then there's Rebecca Sharp, who is the subject of season 3, the daughter, or granddaughter in the comics, of the Gambler. And her abilities are the Fiddler you can need. And her abilities are to give people bad luck while giving herself good luck. I don't know if that's from her abilities from the comics, but And then there's Derek Mears plays a character in this who can shrink things. There's a guy who is nuclear, and there's someone who could read minds. Dominic Lance, no relation to Laurel or Captain Lance. I don't remember his name, but the Dominic Lance, and I think that's the only one that DeVoe switches bodies into that works for me because he's got that cadence. Sort of like Neil Sandlin. I'll try to sound like Neil Sandlin would sound, and that's the only one that really gives it. Well, maybe Hartley Sawyer later we'll get, but like then he starts swapping with others. Like he jumps into Rebecca Sharp, and I'm sorry, she has a high pitched voice and it doesn't work. And then because he's keeping the same, it keeps the same. We gotta have this whole thing where it sounds just like them. They can't have any differences. So then he jumps into the Fiddler, who has a southern accent. So now, as the thinker, he talks like this, or she talks like this, and I can't take that seriously. There's also an arc with Ralph where he's got a thing for her, and he's devastated when they lose her, and it's like, you knew her for like 48 hours. How could... It amazes me how quickly people fall in love in movies and TV shows. I've been watching a lot of these lately where it's like, they fall in love right away, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. And like, Ralph is devastated from losing her. He knew her for only 48 hours. It's not like she's the love of his life or anything. I think the whole point is love is a variable, in which the thinker has not factored in. That's the whole thing. And if you're smart enough to figure out what's going to happen, they sort of spell it out for you from the beginning when Clifford looks at his wife Malise and says, I'm nothing without you. And they say that over and over and over again. And wouldn't you know it, his downfall is that his wife leaves him and helps Team Flash take him down. So literally, he was nothing without her. Yeah. But yeah, the body swapping stuff. Then he takes... he hops into the dimension jumping guy. I don't remember his name. That's okay. And then Hartley Sawyer, Ralph Dibny, another one. He's after all these bus metas. And I found out a little bit, he orchestrated this whole thing that there would be absolutely 12 metas on that bus. And he gives them these specific abilities. And yeah, so he's hunting them down. They also introduce another recurring villain, Annette Black, and her sidekick Norvok. someone that Killer Frost / Caitlin is working for, and she doesn't want to do it anymore. Killer Frost can also come out, and they explained it like she used a splicer to do it, but then they say no, that didn't actually work, and it was a placebo, and Caitlin got it to work herself, and then there's another boss meta who can take people's powers and transfer them to other people. Like, he takes this one fire meta's powers and gives it to the bully from Glee, and then he transfers the Flash's power into Iris, and yeah, all the Iris haters love that episode. And look, yeah, Iris gets a big boost in this season. She becomes team leader of Team Flash. Then even the Flash says, "You're the leader," and I'm like, no, she's not. It's called Team Flash. Therefore, the Flash is always the leader. I see why he was gone. She's the leader, sure. She's next in command. But he's back. So she needs to sit on her ass. She needs to go do her job. The reporter stuff, which she doesn't do at all until the end of the season. It's like they forgot. She's like, oh, I'm going to write an article about DeVoe. And it's like, wait. Like, she has done nothing the entire season in writing stories. Now all of a sudden, she's going to write this one. Like, they forget about her writing things. And that's a very important thing when you come to that newspaper. But we'll get that when we get to season 6. That's going to be a big, hey, boy, because that's a bunch and a half. Again, I'm not going to talk about the crossover. There are some things with the Leonard Snart doppelganger, which I'll have to get into with that, but, And my biggest problem of this season, they decided to do their take on the trial of Flash from the comics. And this is where, and I've noticed this watching through these, especially this season, that I think, I've said this about the Flash before, they have too much filler. And that's why I think like shorter episode seasons, like they have on Disney Plus and Netflix, which was like 10 episodes a season or something, works better. And season 9 is going to have 13 episodes, but I don't think it's going to be what you think it's going to be. I think it should be one conclusive story, but Eric Wallace, the showrunner, likes to do his graphic novels. And he doesn't seem to have learned his lesson, because from what I'm gathering, we're seeing production stills, that looks like they're doing there's a new Captain Boomerang, and then there's Red Death, spoilers. And I'm like, wait a minute, how do those tie into each other? He's doing more graphic novel shit, and it's like, it's 13 episodes. You have 13 episodes. Do one story. Nope. Anyway, so there's a lot of filler in this, and I think that the trial of the Flash is the biggest filler, because you know it's not going to stick, you know he's not going to get out, and especially if you've already seen it, you're just sitting there going, what is this going? And they copy it with season 7 of Arrow, and it's the same thing. You're just waiting for him to get out because you know what's going to happen, right? And so basically, Barry gets tough on DeVoe. Like, he wants to prove that DeVoe is the one behind this. And, of course, because they make DeVoe OP, he already knows every single outcome, and they framed him for his murder. No one ever asked how DeVoe's body got in there. Yes, they come up with some cockamamie excuse for how it got there, but that's bullshit. Like, he just... what? I don't know. Like, DeVoe is there, but his wheelchair is not there, and there's this whole thing, and so he goes to jail because, of course, and, like, there's really no evidence other than the knife, right? And I guess that's pretty damning evidence, but, like, I never get this, like, the way that Barry is acting, he knows he didn't do it, he keeps telling them they don't do it, and then the jury's like, he shows no emotion. Well, yeah, because he knows that he's not going to win this. He knows that you've already decided before he they even put up the first evidence. Once they said they have the knife, doesn't matter what they said, you already know. So in his mind, there's no reason to care. And oh, he's a heartless, and he's because of that. And it's like, okay, so he goes to jail, and we have a cameo from Goldberg, Legends. Yeah, no joke. I was making dinner. I was in here doing something, and I heard, "Hey, you must be new here." And I'm like, "No, I forgot Goldberg was in this." And the jail episodes are filler. That's all they are. You see Team Flash dealing with the fact that he's not there. It helps Ralph become a hero and get the new suit. There's more stuff with Gypsy too, where Gypsy's father, Breacher, played by Danny Trejo, comes in. And comes back later, and they Cisco and Gypsy break up later, which, okay. Yeah. There's also a plot thread throughout the season of this weird teenage girl. Actually, I should save that for the end of my review, but anyway. Actually, no, I'll do it now. This weird teenage girl, or not teenage girl, but this weird woman, because she's technically older than the actors who play Barry and Iris, but, she shows up. She's in the crossover at the wedding, and she's shows up at Jitters a couple of times, and she's showing up at places. She shows up at Cecile's. Cecile's pregnant, by the way, and this is another one where people are gonna be cringe because they're like, Cecile is now being pushed forward in character. I don't know if she's a regular here, but I know by season 5 I think she is. But she gets powers from being pregnant. Even though there's no reason to, the baby's not a meta. But yet Cecile gets mind reading powers. And then she's able to channel people by the end of her pregnancy as she's getting closer. And then later in season 5, it's like she's an empath. She feels things. She gets feelings. But yeah, that's her plot, is that she's pregnant and she connects with the others. And our Wells for the season is Harry Wells. He's back. And so he is the Wells for the season. And the story with him is that he knows that DeVoe is smarter than him, so he creates another thinking cap, which is what they call it, because it's revealed through flashbacks that don't really make sense to me. I don't know that DeVoe is there, the particle accelerator explosion, and he used that explosion to outpower his thinking cap to make him smarter. So he's essentially been hiding in the wings for 4 years, setting up this whole thing, because he figured out, because of his smarts, that he was going to have to wait until Barry Allen, was able to go into the Speed Force and go back out. He's just lucky his health didn't deteriorate completely in the 4 years that, technically 5, right? Because there's the year, because it's 2013 is when the particle accelerator goes off, so that's 1 year. 2014 was season 1. 2015, 2016, and 2017, which is where this takes place. Because you got season 1, 2, 3. You got season 1 is 2013 and 2014 and 2015. And 2015, 2016, 2017, 2017, 2018. So that's 4 years. But technically it's 3. I don't know. It's confusing, I guess. That's 2013 and 2014. I don't know. It hurts my head now. And yeah, Barry comes out, he's saying weird things, and there's a whole thing of dialogue where he says some things, like lines about like, my dad didn't kill them, which comes back to that. There's other lines like, this house is bitching, which comes back later, and I didn't kill anyone, I'm innocent, Your Honor, which goes to the trial of the Flash, which was also hinted at the end of season 1 when he's running through the singularity, and he sees him in jail or whatever. Yeah. And you have to meet the new warden, who's not new, but the warden is a bad dude. He's selling metas to Black, played by Katie Sackhoff, who's our new recurring meta, and Norvalk, which actually I don't know, but they're new recurring villains that show up, here and there. But yes, so DeVoe's master plan is the Enlightenment, which we find out because of Harry when he uses that. He makes a second thinking cap and uses dark matter to power because that's what DeVoe did. But it has the opposite effect. It makes him dumber. Which the only thing I can come up with is why it does that is because it wasn't powered by a particle accelerator explosion doing it. He just uses a little thing and puts it in and does it. It's not an explosion. So, or a wave. I don't know. Yes. And that's what frustrates me about the character of the Thinker, as good as Neil Sandilands is that he knows every single thing that's going to happen, so he can prepare for everything, except for his wife turning on him. Maybe he planned that out. I don't know. It's very meh to me. Whether or not he planned everything out, like he foresaw everything. He does say later, though, he foresaw the betrayal, so I don't know. But, yeah. So, he collects the metas. He needs one more, basically. And that, after he collects Ralph, he's able to turn back into himself. So we get Neil Sandilands for the final part of this, but the middle part, it wasn't him. And that's a mix for me. I feel like if it was all him, like, yeah, they had to get rid of Neil Sandilands because of the dead body in the Trial of the Flash. But if you got rid of the Trial of the Flash, you wouldn't need to do that. And I feel like the Trial of the Flash storyline is unnecessary for this season. It really is. It adds nothing to me. It's just filler so that they can stretch out the season. That's all it is. In my opinion. Maybe wondering how did Barry get out? Well, that's because Ralph, elongated man, figures out he can change himself at anyone, so he shows up as Clifford DeVoe. And, yeah, so Barry goes back to CCPD after he's released, and they still don't give him his job back because they don't believe that it's true, that he's innocent. People don't believe it. They think it's a coincidence that, you think of a coincidence that he shows up and, it's true. And with the metas, who knows? But, yeah, I think by the end of the season, he does get his job back. Well, it's not specifically said, but, Singh was about to call him. So, everything comes down to the finale. Right? I think this is helping Team Flash, and DeVoe's master plan of the Lightning is coming to fruition. He's using the satellites and the metas. He's taking all the powers from all of the metas, and then he's using Fallout, the radioactive one, to power his machine. But Barry is able to show up and use a little thing that Aminet gave him to destroy one of the satellites. But of course, DeVoe prepared for it, so he goes to the Star Labs, steals their satellite, and uses that to uplink it. Because of course. So this is where I explain to you the girl that we see. So I explained different facets which we've seen him, but when she shows up at Barry and Iris' apartment, loft, whatever, to apartment 5, by the way. Not apartment 4 is Harry was knocking on, but 5. She brings a basket of stuff for the baby shower, and then takes off when Iris shows up. And we see her around the corner, and it's revealed she's a speedster, and she has yellow and purple lightning. Now, when Barry's lightning, of course, is yellow. See? Yellow. But when Iris was a speedster, hers was purple. Don't understand why. Is there certain reasons why they're colored? Like, yellow is the pure speed force. You got the speed force, Zoom had blue lightning because he had the velocity 7, velocity 6, whatever it was. And then Savitar had white lightning because of his suit. Reverse Flash had red lightning because it's a negative speed force, but why is Iris' lightning purple? Wally's is even yellow. So, and Jesse's. So I don't understand. Well, Iris gets to have purple lightning. but there's a mix of them, which means she's most likely connected to them in some way, which we'll get to in the finale. But they're able to take down DeVoe because Barry goes into his mindscape, and they gotta find the good DeVoe. What he finds is Ralph still alive in there because it's technically still Ralph's body, so he still needs Ralph to be in there. So they find the good DeVoe at the Oxford teaching place where he taught. And by the way, I should mention there's flashbacks with Malise and DeVoe that kind of fill in what happened. And Malise always had faith in humanity until a bunch of rebels showed up, killed some people, and stole a water purifier machine. And it's like, okay, fuck humans, do your enlightenment thing. That's what switched her to hating on humanity. And it's like, a stolen water purifier. Okay, that's petty. Right? Anyway, yeah. So Malise helps them, and also with Cecile, who is very close to giving birth at the moment, but they need her powers, and she won't have them, at least those versions of them. Well, when she's not pregnant. So eventually, Barry realizes that Ralph is the good inside the Thinker, DeVoe, and so they fight a bunch of other DeVoes, Ralph donning the suit. Then they are able to jump through the portal back into our world. Well, it's still a mirror dimension, but still, not mirror dimension, but a pocket dimension. There we go. Where Ralph takes his body back. Before DeVoe surrenders the body, he taps the chair, which allows him to use Kilgore's powers to get into the chair and crash the Starlight satellite, which is falling down at a rate that would wipe out a lot of humans. So the others have to go out there and try to clear the place, and the Flash has to save the day. And when he goes up, he's going to punch it, and it rewinds, and then it goes again, and there's another fist with yellow and purple lightning punching it. Save the day. Saving the day. Saving the day. And so, yeah. And Malise destroys what was left of the Kilgore thing. So that's how he's defeated, which is a decent way, I guess. And I don't know, maybe they do a line where it's like DeVoe won't be coming back, he's gone or something, I don't know. Well, by the way, I should mention Julian. They throw in a line where they say that he's gone back to England. And also, Wally and Jesse break up for some reason. I think this is when the actress who played Jesse got put on a new show. I think it was here. Which is why she was very sporadic and not so much on the show. I guess. I don't know. But, yeah. Yeah, and everything gets back. Cecile gives birth to Jenna Marie West, who we will really not see that much. Actually, she disappears. I know it's tough for kids on shows, but they mention her. I gotta get back to Jenna. I gotta see Jenna. And it's like, we never really see her. Oh, but Diggle shows up. First, it's DeVoe dressed as Diggle, and then Diggle makes a cameo quickly. But yeah. Of course, the crossover, but, yeah, we end with the celebration of the new baby. Everyone is there, including the mysterious new girl who now has short hair, and reveals that her name is Nora, not Dawn from the comics, because in the comics they have the Tornado Twins, Dawn and Dawn, which also leads to the line, we're going to need more diapers, which they could have just used for Jenna, but hopefully Eric Wallace will go back to that because he wrote some of the episodes, but for when if Iris gets pregnant, it's got to be at the end of this season or something, or to match up with Nora. But yeah, and she reveals that she helped them. Like, well, we need to talk. I think I messed up, and I'm your daughter Nora. And the season ends there. So yeah, and that we'll discuss in season 5. But overall, the season is a mixed bag for me. I'll give it a C. I think it's a mixed bag for me because a good performance from the villain, but middle of the season, Trial of the Flash, body swapping, too much filler in the middle of this. It's like they had the beginning of it planned out, which is good. The ending of the season planned out, which is good, but the middle, minus the crossover. It's one of the better crossovers. I'll talk about it tomorrow, but just middle of the season, big pile of doo-doo, in my opinion. You didn't need to do the Trial of the Flash storyline. All it served was to stretch out the season without the Flash. And then the body swapping bullshit, why? It made the villain worse, in my opinion. And I'm going to have the same kind of opinion, negative opinion towards the villain in season 5, because that really frustrates me too. But yeah, I'll give it a C. The season gives a C for me, but it's not. I don't think it's the worst season. I don't hate any of these seasons. There's just parts of them that bug me a little bit, but yeah. And so this means we're halfway through my rewatch of the Flash reviews. 4 more seasons to go, and hopefully I can get it done before season 9 comes out. Hopefully. But I gotta do December. I probably won't be able to do season 5 till January because I gotta prepare December soon. Get started on that. Excuse me. But what are your thoughts on the Flash season 4? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.